Hello, BookTube. This is my October reading plan. I'm going to start with manga. Planning on reading the entirety of Demon Slayer by Koyoharu Gotouge starting December 1st. Demon Slayer is about siblings Tanjiro and Nezuko Kamado who are traumatized by a demon attack. One night, while Tanjiro is away selling charcoal, the demon Muzan attacks the Kamado family, slaughtering all but Nezuko, and she is transformed into a demon. When Tanjiro returns, Nezuko attacks Tanjiro, and Tanjiro is holding her off when a member of the Demon Slayer Corps arrives to defeat Nezuko. Tanjiro begs for Nezuko's life, and the two go on a journey that sees Tanjiro joining the Demon Slayer Corps and both pursuing the demon Muzan to destroy him and find a way to transform Nezuko back into a human. I love this series. This is going to be my third reread of it, and I'm thinking seriously of making rereading Demon Slayer in October a yearly tradition. I am so looking forward to reading this series. Also in October are my September pre-orders. Every month I put in a pre-order with Book People for the following month's forthcoming releases of the manga series that I actively follow and first volumes of series that I would like to try out that are debuting. In September, there are only 4, which is a respite from the massive amount that August had and also what's coming at the end of the year. So the 4 for September are the final volume of Eden Zero, the latest volume of Dark Gathering, the 4th volume of Gokurokugai, and the 2nd volume of Nome's Exorcist. I will talk more about all 4 series when they arrive, which should be either later this week or more likely early next week, depending upon how quickly Book People puts them in the mail. The final volume of Eden Zero releases tomorrow, so it'll probably be, I'm thinking, early next week, and then I'll have to figure out how exactly I'm going to read them. And I'll report back on that with weekly reads. But anyway, I'm also hoping to get more One Piece read by Eiichiro Oda, starting with volume 61. One Piece is one of the most popular manga series in the world. It's about a young man named Monkey D. Luffy who, when he was a child, became a mascot for a crew of pirates captained by red-haired Shanks. On the penultimate visit of the red-haired pirates to Luffy's home village, Luffy eats a devil fruit. Devil fruit is a fruit that grants its consumer superhuman powers. In Luffy's case, it transformed him into a rubber man. However, consuming a devil fruit has a severe downside, particularly if you want to become a pirate like Luffy. The cost for eating a devil fruit is that you cannot swim. If you are submerged in water, you sink like a stone. 10 years after last seeing red-haired Shanks, Luffy sets out to sea to become a pirate, searching for the One Piece so that he can claim the title of King of the Pirates. And he, during his wild adventures, builds a crew that quickly become a family. I read some One Piece this past Saturday and really loved it. And I wish I'd read these 3 volumes yesterday, but I didn't. Kind of annoyed with myself about that. So moving on to Victober. Victober is the most popular booktube event in October, probably the most popular, most beloved booktube event of the booktube calendar, at least for this corner of booktube. In Victober, participants, of course, read Victorian literature. I have never had much success with Victober. I think every Victober I participated in, I have failed miserably. I don't know if that's because I'm just not drawn to Victorian literature, or I've never really had a good bench of Victorian literature to choose from. So this year I've kind of corrected that. I've added a few more works of Victorian literature to my collection. But is that enough? So this year what I'm going to do is Dickens versus Trollope. I will be rereading, after about 19 years, Bleak House by Charles Dickens. This is a novel about an inheritance dispute that has consumed generations of the Jarndyce family. And there will be Bill Redeeming, The Way We Live Now by Anthony Trollope. This is about a mysterious financier who takes London society by storm. Now, there is every possibility that these two books do not work out. And so I am planning for a contingency, which will of course include copious amounts of One Piece. But I'm also thinking about reading, if it should so happen, Parastories by Mavis Gallant, which maybe I could have read yesterday, but I didn't, so it's on the docket for as an alternate this month, and if not, then maybe sometime next year. Perfection by Vincenzo Latronico, translated from the Italian by... Where are you at? Can people not put the translator on the cover? Okay, translated from the Italian by Sophie Hughes. This is about a couple who live in Berlin. Was shortlisted for the Booker International and is currently on the long list for the National Book Award in Translated Literature. There Are Rivers in the Sky by Elif Shafak. This is a novel spanning thousands of years, set in part in Nineveh and in modern-day Assyria, as well as in London. And then the next three are poetry rereads, starting with By Stone and Needle by Catherine W. Carter. This is her most recent collection. I read it earlier this year when it came out, and I want to give it another go. Obviously, you could probably guess what I read this past Sunday, which I don't know why it just didn't quite work out. I will report back weekly reads about that, but it's bugging me. And then Topsy-Turvy by Charles Bernstein. This, I think I read this a few years ago and didn't quite like it. I want to give it another go. And there is Frank Sonnets by Diane Seuss, which again I read a few years ago, and I'm rather fond of these poems, but I do want to give Diane Seuss another read. Now, if I don't get to these three collections, there is always the possibility of one of them showing up for Remember December. Because I'm thinking what I'm going to do for December is focus on rereads as part of Remember December and Bell Redemptions, which I'm calling Bell Redemption December. And I kind of have a plan for that already percolating. Now, these two are based on booktube events that happened going on 2 years ago. I think they might have been one-offs because they didn't happen again last year. So I don't know if there's going to be these booktube events this year or not. If not, I'll just do them on my own. But yeah, I think if I don't get to any of those, I'll think about them for Remember December. Now, since I ended up rereading some poetry yesterday, I don't really want to do that today and tomorrow. So I'm thinking about doing some triad chapters. And maybe I could add, depending on how I react to the chapters, add them to the alternates for October. Or not, depending. So in this case, it would be The Greek Revolution by Mark Mazower. And Eagle Against the Sun by Ronald H. Spector. But how that turns out, I will report back this Friday with Weekly Reads on how those turned out. But anyway, that's my October reading plan. Of course, things are subject to change based on my whims and whether or not things go to hell in a handbasket, which with my reading is sometimes the case. Anyway, BookTube, I will be back tomorrow with maybe a tag video, maybe a discussion video. I don't know, but I will try to make a video every day this week. So until I see you next time, thank you, have a great afternoon, and stay safe.